so we are live. So, hello everyone, and welcome back to another session by Zubi. So, today we are going to have a very special session, which is the Python hands on workshop with Sahaj Oberoi. So, Sahaj is a Python developer who is also familiar with other emerging technologies. He is a Google sponsored DSC Explore ML facilitator, as well as he's leading the GirlScript chapter for Faridabad. So, welcome, Sahaj. It's a pleasure to have you here. And
Thanks a lot, Krish. Yeah.
Yeah. So this session is actually going to cover all the basics of Python, as well as we're going to encounter a very interesting project with Sahaj, which I'm really excited to learn. And if you guys will have any questions, the audience can feel free to post the questions in the comment section. And yeah, I'll just hand over my screen to Sahaj now.
Thanks a lot, Khushi and Zubi, for letting me speak in this workshop. And I'm really very thankful. And let's just start with the session now. So, first of all, I would like to, just start with the very basics, like what is Python. So Python is a general purpose programming language. Like, what do I mean by general purpose? So it can be literally used for almost everything. Like if you want to make a mobile app, you can make that as well using frameworks like Kiwi. If you want to do automation work, then you can do it like using Selenium. If you want to make websites, then also it can be used as backend purpose. So Python can be used for multi-purpose, and therefore it's also called a general purpose programming language. Now, one of the biggest reasons why Python is getting famous nowadays is machine learning and data science. So here are few reasons why you should start learning Python now. So the first reason is that if you are a complete beginner, then also Python is great for you. Like even for me, it's like one of my first languages to start with. So it was very beginner friendly and easy to understand. And so it's one of the biggest reasons why people start with Python when they start with learning programming. Second reason is community. So what do you mean by community is that there are a lot of programmers that are using Python. All right, like a lot of people are using it in industry, and there are various websites like Quora, Stack Overflow, etc., where if you face any problem and you ask your questions or your doubts, they would be answered mostly, or you would already be able to find the answer to your questions on those websites. So there is a lot of community support, there are a lot of people who are doing this, and if even if you face some new issue, you will probably get an answer to that. So that's an amazing thing about Python. Third is career opportunities. As I earlier told you, artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning is really booming nowadays, and Python is one of the languages that is used for such stuff. So, career opportunities is also very great if you learn Python, and Python can be used for web development as well using Django or Flask. So, it helps in the backend development basically. The sixth is Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pi is like a very small motherboard kind of a thing. It's like a chip where you also have ports for USB. You have a Wi-Fi adapter as well. So it's a kind of, it's just the size of your hand at max, and it can be used to create a very small computer of your own. So Python is also used for its development, and that's one of the reasons why you might learn Python as well. And the seventh one is that a lot of startups and companies are using Python nowadays. So let's see some of the famous ones. So NASA, YouTube, Google, Instagram, Reddit, Netflix, all these companies are using Python nowadays in their websites, or their mobile apps also, and NASA for their research. So what makes you stop from learning Python? It's a great language, it's very easy, it's being used a lot in the industry. As you can see, some top companies are using this language. So that's like a big reason why you might also learn Python. Now let's do the hands-on session. That would be like if you have Python installed already in your system, it would be great if you open your Python idle. Otherwise, for those who do not have Python installed in their system, I won't exactly be telling the steps for that, but we can search online Python compiler. Okay, if you search that, you get all these options. So I will be using onlinegdb.com. Yeah, so when you get to see this window, right? So here is the code editor where you will be writing your whole code. Okay, and this area below that is your output window or your console window where you get the output of your code. All right, so let's start with the very basics of Python programming language. All right, so the very basic would be data types. All right, what is data types? So data types basically mean that, for example, we all know what is data, right? My name is a data, my marks is a data, right? So for example, if you talk about the data of a student, all right, so his name would be a string, all right. Like what is a string? Basically, it's the textual content. The first one is string. So it is basically the textual content, and it is represented by double quotes or single quotes. So if I, write my name within the double quotes, it will be considered as a string. And if I write Oberoi like this, so it is also one string. And even if I use single quotes only, then also it will be considered as a string only in Python. So for example, if I write Zubi Python workshop. All right, so this is also a string in Python. So again, what is string? It's just the textual content basically. But in Python, even if you write a number like this in double quotes or single quotes, then also it is considered as a string. All right, so moving on to the next data type, which is integer basically. So in this, obviously, all the negative numbers without decimal, zero, as well as all the positive numbers, that is the whole numbers, all that come under integers. So like all the negative numbers and all the positive numbers, all these are considered under the integer data type. Now the next one is float. So all the numbers, either negative, positive, or even zero, that have decimal in them. Okay, so if I write a number like this or something like this, so all these are part of float because they have decimal in them. All right, so that's the difference between integer and float. That float has decimal numbers, but integer does not have any decimal number. All right, and make sure that you notice the difference that integer is not using any double quotes, neither is float. All right, only strings are represented by double quotes or single quotes. That's like one of the main things that you need to remember. So fourth main data type can be your Boolean. Okay, so in computer programming in general, not only just in Python, Boolean basically refers to true or false value. Okay, so you can consider true as as correct statement. Like for example, if you have some correct statement, so it can be represented by true. Similarly, if something is incorrect, so it can be represented as false. So Boolean can have only two values. Either it can be true or it can be false. So these are few data types in Python. The next, okay, let's see how we can print also. So to print something in Python, as I told you earlier, that this portion is our code editor, and this portion is our what can we say, the console window or the output window. So if you want to get some output, how we can do that? So for example, if I write print, okay, so the keyword is print, and then we open and close the parenthesis, and in between that we write some value. Okay, so for example, I write Zubi Python workshop. Now if I run this, okay, so this is the button for run, you can see in the output window the same thing that I wrote here gets printed. All right, so I think it's fairly simple. You just have to write the print keyword, open and close the parentheses, and in between them write the data. Now, for example, if I want to write the integer data, so I will simply write that without any double quotes or single quotes, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 got printed. Now moving on to the variables. So what are variables? Variables. So variables can be, called as a storing container. Okay. For example, if I write x is equal to 10. So in this way, you can consider that x is sort of a container that is storing the value 10. All right. So if you want to, check like how is it stored in the um, computer main memory. So consider this red box as computer main memory, and in this whole main memory there are memory blocks. Okay, so there are some blocks like this, and each block has an address, just like we have all the houses in the localities or societies. So similarly memory also has memory blocks, so you can compare memory blocks with houses. Okay, and so each memory block has a address, and when you write x is equal to 10, so basically 10 is stored somewhere in the memory block like this. Okay, so a memory block stores the value 10, and x basically refers to that value. Okay, so whenever you try to print x, for example, if I print x, then it will print the value that it is storing. Okay, so it's storing the value 10 here, so when you print it, it will print 10. Okay, so this is also, I hope, clear to you all. um, and variables can store any type of data. Okay, so all the data types that we considered earlier, that is integer, float, string, boolean, it can store any type of data. So you can see it stored boolean, and if I want to write my name, and if I want to change the name of the variable as name only. Okay, so that can also be done. You can take any name. It's not that variables can have only x as a name. It can be anything. It's just that a variable name cannot start with a number. Like this would give us an error if I try this. Okay, so it gives invalid syntax because a variable name has to start with a letter or a character basically. So that's one point. But yeah, you can use numbers later. Like if I write this way, so it would not give me any error. It works because you can use the numbers later, but you cannot start a variable name with a number. So that's the key point. Now the concept of variables is also done. So now we will see how we can input from the user. Like for example, um, you want to create a program where you are taking the details of the user, whoever is using the program. Okay, so how we can store the data and accordingly print something. So for that, if I take the variable name again and if I write input, okay, and let's print name also. Let's run this. So you see nothing happens in the output, this console window or the output window. But if you notice carefully, this cursor right here is blinking, right? So why is this happening? Because we have written name is equal to input here. So basically the program is waiting for us to give the input. Okay, it's waiting for the user to give any input. So let's give the input. That is my name Sahaj. So Sahaj gets printed. But you must notice that this is very, random, and it's not very clear. Like for example, if someone is not a programmer, he might not know that the program is expecting a name or a age or anything else. So for that you can provide a message here also. So in the parenthesis of input you can provide a message. For example, enter your name. All right, so now when we run this, so we get a message that you have to enter your name. So this makes things more clear that a name is expected from the user. So the user, for example me in this case, I will write my name and I will proceed further, press enter and all. So as you can see, our name got printed because we had printed here. So I hope this is also clear to you all now. Now let's see some of the operators in Python. All right. So, few of the operators in Python are arithmetic operators, uh, assignment operators, comparison operators, and logical operators. So, see, so these are like one the main operators or the basic operators that are essential and common across all the programming languages actually. So let's start with the first one, which is arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are plus, minus, multiply, divide, double asterisk, modulo. All right, so this is clearly understandable that this is for addition. Okay, so this must not be confusing for you all. And this again, -1, is also clear that it's used for subtraction. Now for multiplication, this asterisk symbol, this is called asterisk, or you can say star. Okay, so this symbol is used for multiplication, and this single slash is also used for division. Okay, this one is used for division with decimal numbers, and this double asterisk is used for power, or basically the exponent. All right, so and this one is used to get quotient, and the last one is used for remainder. So I will give an idea for each one of these. So if I write 10 and asterisk 5, okay, so this will basically multiply 10 and 5, so we will get 50. Now if I divide, so you can see that we got 2.0. We got a float value. We did not get only 2. We got decimal as well, right? Whereas if I use double slash here, so in this case we will not get the decimal. Okay, we only got 2. Now let's see, if I divide 11 by 5, then also we get 2, because this particular operator returns us with only the quotient, okay, and not the whole decimal part, whereas the single slash gives us the decimal as well. So you get 2.2 in this case because this returns the decimal as well. Now moving on to the double asterisk. So this one gives the power, so I will take smaller numbers here. 2 to the power 3. And this basically in maths we have studied this, right? Exponent or power. So this whole expression basically means 2 asterisk 2 asterisk 2. So this base right here 2 has power 3. Okay, and it basically means that 2 will be multiplied this power number of times. Okay, 3 times basically. So like this expression 2 to the power 3, this whole expression in Python is represented by this double asterisk. Okay, so the left operand is your base, the right operand is your power. So if I run this now, so we should get answer as 8. All right, and similarly if I write this, so this should be like 3 power 2. So this should be equal to 9 because 3 will be multiplied to itself 2 times. So if I run this now, so we should get 9. I hope this is also clear to you all. So these were some of the arithmetic operators. Yeah, we left one of the arithmetic operators, that is modulo operator. So this one gives us the remainder. Okay, so when we divide 3 by 2, what remainder do we get? So that will be returned by this operator. Okay, so if I run this, in this case we will get 1, and if I take some value like this 4, so when you divide 10 by 4, you will take quotient as 2, that will be basically 8, so you will get remainder as 2 in this case. All right, so it's just basic maths, only the difference is of the operators. Okay, like what operator represents what thing, that's the only thing. Now let's move to the comparison operators. So less than sorry, greater than, less than, um, double equal to, greater than equal to, less than equal to. So all these come under the comparison operators. So the first one is greater than, right? So basically greater than is used to check, for example if I write 3 greater than 2, so basically it will check whether the left operand is greater than 2 or not. Okay, if it is greater, then it will print true, because earlier if you remember in Boolean I said that for the correct statements in programming languages we use true. So that's the same case here. Okay, so you can see that we got true as an answer. Similarly, if we write less than here, so is 3 less than 2? Obviously this is false, right? So we get false as an answer. Now I hope through the basic maths you already know this as well. Less than, equal to, or greater than, equal to. I'll take one example quickly. So if I write less than equal to, so what does it mean? It will first of all check whether 3 is less than 2 or not. Okay, in this case it is false, but if it is false then it will check whether 3 is equal to 2 or not. Okay, so basically what will happen is, first it will check whether 3 is less than 2 or not. If this is false, then what will happen? 3, it will check whether 3 is equal to 2 or not. If this is also false, then ultimately it returns with false only. Otherwise, it will return as true. Like if this by chance was true and this was 3 here and this was true, so it would have returned as true only. Okay. So if I run this, it will return false because 3 is not less than 2 and 3 is not equal to 2. But if I write 3 here, So 3 is 3 less than 3? No. But is 3 equal to 3? Yes. So ultimately we got true as an answer. Okay. So we missed two operators as well, which is double equal to. So this basically gives true if both the values are equal. If 3 and 3 are equal, so it will return true. Okay. And for example, if we write this, so in this case it becomes false. And we have not equal to operator as well. So this one basically checks if both of them are not equal. So for not equal, it returns true. So if I run this, it returns true. Okay. So I hope this is also clear to you all now. And if we get time by the end, we shall return to the assignment and logical operators, as everything cannot be covered, everything about Python cannot be covered within just 1.5 hours. So I will skip assignment and logical operators for now. These are not going to be, useful at this particular moment. So now if we want to store our data, okay, so what can we use for that? So you have a data structure in Python called list. Okay, so for example, we create a variable list, and we open and close the square brackets. So these square brackets here are representing a list. Okay, and what is a list? So I'm sure, like, at some moment of your life, when you go to some grocery store, so your mom would have given you a list that bring these items for me from the grocery store. So it can be a list of basic things like Maggie, juice, chips, biscuits, etc. So similarly, we have list in Python as well, where you can just keep the record of all the data. So it can be any type of data. For example, in this list, let me add a name. Okay, we can add a number as well. We can add float value. We can add Boolean value. So there is no restriction with what type of data can be stored in the particular list. Any type of data can be stored within a list. Okay, so there is no restriction in Python for that. If I print this now, so you can see it exactly gets printed the same way. There is no difference at all. And now, for example, yeah, so in Python list, each data is each data is associated with a number. Okay, so the very first value that is in the whole list, that is given a number, for example, 0. Okay, so the very first item is given the number 0. The second item of the list is given the number 1. The third, 2. The fourth, 3. Okay, and this keeps on going for all the other items as well. At this moment we have only 4 items in our Python list, so we have in numbers 0, 1, 2, and 3, and these numbers are called index. Okay, so 0 is the index of the value Sahaj, 1 is the index of value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 is the index of 2, 3.4567. Okay, so I hope you get the point. And this keeps on incrementing for each value that is stored within the list. All right. And it's always fixed that the very first value of the list will have 0 as its index. Okay, it's a fixed thing, you cannot change it. Now, for example, if I want to access particular value from a list, okay, so what I can do is I can write. So first of all, we write the variable name of the list. Okay, then we write square brackets again. Okay, And for example, if I want to access true from this list, I basically want to print the third index of this whole list. So what I will write here is the index number which I want to be printed. So if I run this now, 1 second. Yeah, so when we print this, so we get true. Now, for example, if I want to print my own name, so instead of 3, I will write the index 0. Okay, so we got Sahaj. So like that's a good way to access the value that you want from the whole list using the index number, and you can use the same procedure to replace a value. Okay, so for example, uh, I want to replace Sahaj with Zubi. Okay, Zubi. So what I can do is this much part represents Sahaj. Okay, this much part represents Sahaj. So I will directly write list and then in the square brackets the index number which I want to replace, and here I can write Zubi equal to whatever value that we want to replace the previous value with. Okay, so that's what we write here. So if I run this now, so you can see the list, the very first value of the list has been changed. Okay, so Sahaj got replaced by Zubi. Now, yeah. So similarly, if you want to, simply replace with a number, so that's also possible. You just replace Zubi with any number. Okay, so for example, 1000. So now you can notice that 1000 is in place of Zubi, Sahaj, sorry. Okay, so that's that's how you can replace a particular value with when there is an already existing value and you want to replace the value with a new value, so you can use this way. Okay, so you can simply write the variable name, then the index number, and then the new value. All right, but what if we want to add some value to the existing list, like at the end I want to for example I want to write Zubi here, something like this. So how we can do that? So let's see. For that we have an inbuilt function. Okay, so function is kind of a already written code. Okay, uh, and it basically helps to perform an operation or some, it's basically a shortcut, you can say. So if I write list dot append, okay, and then I open and close a parenthesis. So in this in these parentheses I will write the value which I want to be right next to the last value here. Okay, so if I want Zubi here, so that's what I am going to write here. Okay, I have written Zubi here. So now if I run this, so you can see that the original list was of 4 elements only, 4 values, but now Zubi is also added to the original list. Okay, so the list has got updated. Another value has been added right at the end of this list. Okay, so I hope this is also clear to you all. Now, this particular list was 1D list. All right, and you also have 2D list. Okay, so let's see what is a 2D list. So it's like a list within a list. All right, let me quickly show you. So for example, we are creating a record of students. Okay, students of a class, and we want basically something like that each student is associated with his marks in a particular subject. Okay, let's say the subject name is uh, Python only. Okay, and we want basically that each student name is associated with its marks. All right, so how we can do that? So with the existing knowledge of 1D list, this is not exactly possible. Okay, but with with 2D list, you can do that for sure. So if I write, mm, first of all, this is what we are going to create, a normal 1D list, and the very first item, let's write name of few people. Okay, Rohan, Zubi, Khushi. Okay, so let's assume these are all the students in our class. Now we want that along with along with this along with all these names, there is marks also associated with them, or you can say roll number associated with them. So how we can do that? So instead of a string being the very first item of the list, what we can do is we can use another list. Okay, we can create at the 0th index, we can create another list. All right, and here I can write the name, and I can also write uh, the marks or the roll number, whatever you can say. Okay, let it be marks. So if you now, for example, print this, again it will be printed as it is. Okay, but so that it's more the structure is more clear and visible, let me give the spacing here. All right, so the very first item of the students list, okay, that is also another list. So if I write 0 here, what we will get is a list, this list, particular list. So as you can see, this is what we got. So now if you clearly notice that we have associated the student name with a value, which can be anything. It can be the roll number, or it can be marks of a subject, so it can be anything. All right, so that's a 2D list. This is a 2D list because like this much part, this and this represents the 1D list, but in this also the items that we have would also be another list. So that is when it becomes a 2D list, two dimensions. Okay, so now we can create a list for these as well. 100. So now what we have done is we have properly structured the whole list. Okay, so this is the main list, and these all the items are also a list. Okay, so when I print the 0th index, so we got this list. Now for example, we want to print Khushi's details. So what we can do is we can write 3 here. So you will get Khushi's details, which is her name and the marks. Now what if we want only the marks of Khushi? Okay, for example, we have a proper software where we are kind of adding all the marks of the students, and we want to basically get the marks of a particular student or something like that. So in that case, what we can do is this much this much part represents this much this list basically. Okay, and if you just focus on this highlighted list, okay, what is the index number for marks here? That is for 95. It is 1. Okay, Khushi is at the 0th place. Marks are at the first index. Okay, so we will write another square brackets and we will write 1 here. Okay, and when we run this, we get the marks of the student named Khushi. So if you if I just revise it once again, what is happening is we have this whole list in which all the items are also list. Okay, so this basically represents this whole part. The number 3 represents one of the list items, this basically, and 1 here represents the marks of the student. Okay, so in real life also, like when you create big softwares and all, this is kind of the structure in which you store the data. Okay, so I hope this is also clear to you all. So this concept will be used further when we, try to create the quotes notifier. So I hope you will remember this one. All right. Now moving on to the next topic, which is loops. Okay. So for example, one second. For example, we want my name to be printed 10 times. So the only feasible way, as per our current knowledge, is to keep on copy pasting the same line. Okay, so I will copy paste this like 10 times, because as per our current knowledge, this is the only way we know how we can get 10 like we can print the name Sahaj 10 times. Okay, as per the current knowledge. But this obviously messes the code, like this messes the whole code, like you have to copy paste the same statement again and again, and this only increases the size of your code. It makes your code dirty. I hope you are getting the point. So what's the use basically? So what we can avoid this situation of getting making our code messy, or increasing the size of our code. So we can use loops for that. Okay, so loops basically are used for repetitive work. If you have some repetition in our work, like in this case our repetitive work is to print Sahaj 10 times. So if we want to avoid the size, like the size of the code to increase so much by just copying pasting the old statements, we can use loops. Now loops are also of two types, for loop and while loop. Okay, so let's see about the for loop now. So for loop, the syntax, that is basically the structure, basic structure by which we create the for loop, is we write for and then we use any variable. Okay, so for example, if I am using I at this moment, so for I in name in range, let's write variable name here. Okay, so in the range you basically provide some value like 1 comma 10. Okay, and then you put this colon symbol, this particular colon symbol, this is very necessary, and you press enter. Okay, and you now notice that by default our cursor doesn't start right here, it starts after few spaces. Okay, it starts here. Now why is that? So this basically is indentation, and indentation in Python is used to define a block of code. Okay, at this moment maybe it does not make very much sense to you, but gradually as you proceed perhaps you will get more clear with it. Okay, so now here we can, write all the statements that have to be repeated again and again. Okay, so for example, this is like, if we, execute this, so what would we get? We would get all these operation, all these statements, that whatever the statements are, to be executed 10 times. Okay, so first statement 1 will be executed, then 2, then 3, then 4, and this cycle will repeat 10 times. Okay, so let's just see it once, what I'm exactly saying. Let me save the syntax and let's execute the code now. So instead of any variable name, I will write I here because it becomes more concise, and we will simply print these. All right. So we have, created four, we have made four of these statements, and what will happen is basically, let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, this happened once, then again, same thing repeated, 1, 2, 3, 4, then again 1, 2, 3, 4, then again 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will keep on repeating 9 times, not 10 times. And let me tell you why. Because here, where we have written 10, 10 is the stop value. Okay, so 10 is basically not included. So this will run 9 times what we have written. So for it to be, running 10 times, we need to write 11 here. Okay, and now this becomes a lot messy. So let me write only the initial example of Sahaj. So if I run this, so you can see Sahaj gets printed 10 times, and we only use 2 lines. Earlier we were using 10 lines. So you can see how massively the code has reduced from 10 lines to directly 2 lines. Okay, this obviously this whole part is not necessary. So from 10 lines, we have simply reduced our code to 2 lines. So that's like the power of loops. It can massively reduce your code and helps you, to do the repetitive work more efficiently, more clean. Your code looks more, clean and readable for any other person. So that's something cool about this list. Now, what actually happens when you run this thing is that range, this whole range 1 comma 11. Okay, this thing refers to, let me reduce this for now, 5. Okay, let's see for 1 comma 5. So this thing basically represents to sort of a list, like it's kind of a list that has number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, it's kind of a list like that. And what happens is, when this loop starts working, so first of all, what will happen is I will be equal to the first item of this range. Okay, that is 1 in this case. Okay, then all the statements that are present here, that all will be executed. Okay, once all these statements are executed, then what will happen, the program will come back to I, and I will shift to the next value in this list. Okay, it will shift to the next value. Then again, all these statements that are present here, all these statements will be executed. In this case only one statement, that is print Sahaj, so that will be executed. Then again the program will move to I. It will again move to 3. Okay, and again I will be equal to 3. So again all the statements will be executed, and this process keeps on repeating till the list is over. Okay, till I is equal to 4. So even if even if we uh, write I comma here, okay, I comma Sahaj, so basically when we write in this way, so this particular value is printed with this particular value by one space. Okay, when we put comma here, so if we run this now, what output should we get? We should get 1 Sahaj, 2 Sahaj, 3 Sahaj, 4 Sahaj, and it will end there. Okay, so as you can see, 1 Sahaj, 2 Sahaj, 3 Sahaj, 4 Sahaj, and it ends right there. So this is loops. Okay, and instead of range, as I said, range is also kind of a list. So instead of range, we can provide a list also. Okay, so for example, I write students. Okay, and Sahaj, Khushi, Zubi. Okay, so let's assume these are the three students, and if we write I in students, so in this case, what will happen? Let's print only I here. Now what will happen when this loop works? Okay, so first of all, I in students. Okay, so I will be first of all equal to Sahaj. Okay, then all the statements here will be executed. In this case, only I will be printed. Okay, that's the only statement. So I will be printed. So Sahaj will be printed. Then the command will move to this part again, and I will increment to the next index. Okay, so it will move on to Khushi. Now I is equal to Khushi. Okay, and again all the statements here will be executed. So Khushi will be printed. Then again I, it comes back to I, and I increments to the next index. Okay, so it's Zubi in this case. So this also gets printed. Now again the command moves to I, and you see that there is no other value present in the list. Okay, so the list is closed here. There is no other value, so the loop will also close. All right, so if we run this now, we can see that, let's see, so all the names of the students that are present in the list, that all will be printed. So Sahaj, Khushi, Zubi. Okay, so I hope this is also clear to you all now. Now let's move to the most interesting part of this workshop, that is to the quotes notifier that was supposed to be done. So quotes notifier, let's just see what kind of thing are we making. Okay, uh, so I hope you can see on the bottom right of the screen, well begun. Okay, like all these quotes will be popping up after 5 seconds, so nothing happens unless first we dream. This is the quote, and below that the author name was there, that is Carl. Okay, so we will kind of be building something similar. Okay, so you can see all these quotes are just keep on getting here after 5 seconds. Okay, so that's something we will be making at this moment. Okay, so I will copy this thing from here, and let's create a new Python file. Let's name it webinar. Let's erase the earlier code. Okay, so this is like the data that I, kind of created just from copy pasting from the web. Okay, so these are some of the motivational quotes. All right, and so there's nothing, nothing like magic here. I just copied pasted all the quotes from the web, and it's in form of 2D list. Okay, if you notice, it is in form of 2D list. This is like the main list. Yeah, this is like the main list, and this is like the 0th index. Okay, and in the 0th index, this is the list, and in the 0th index list, the 0th index is the quote, and the first index is the author name. Okay, so this is like a very simple thing. I created a 2D list by copying pasting the quotes and authors from the web. Okay, there is a better way for that as well. Like, you can use some API. I have used that also before. So API is kind of, a service that kinds of directly gives you output in similar way. Okay, so you can directly use that as well, but since we have shortage of time, so I directly used this copying pasting from the net. Perhaps in the next webinar we can do using the APIs as well. So for this particular thing, what you need is you need to open your terminal. This works only for Windows, guys. Okay, so you need to open your CMD command prompt. Okay, just search for that, and this black window must open. Now what you have to write is pip install win10 toast. Okay, you have to write pip install win10 toast because we are installing this Python package called win10 toast, which basically helps us to um, get notifications. Okay, then you just press enter, and the download will start for you. Oh, okay, I for like the enter didn't press properly earlier, so that's why. Either way, I don't know why this issue is coming for me. Yeah, it's good now. So you can see that it shows requirement already satisfied for me. Okay, because it's already installed in my system. I tried it out first, and then I came for this webinar, of course. So I already have this, but for your case, it will automatically start downloading. Okay, so once this is downloaded for you guys, then you can come to this part. You can to open this, first of all, what you can do is search idle. Okay, IDLE. Okay, and you can open like whatever you see first, and just open that. Now click on file, then new file, and you can then save this file. Okay, wherever you want to save it, and then you can come back to this stage. So that's the process of opening the Python idle. And Python idle is the default Python code editor given to us by Python when we install Python. All right. Okay, so I will try to provide this whole list to you guys with the help of Khushi, and so that you don't have to face the issue of just copying pasting it from the web like I did. Now moving on to the main part. Okay, so first of all, when your Win10 toast is installed, then what you have to do is, first of all, you have to write import Win10 toast. Okay, so by default, whatever Python packages we are using, we declare them right at the top. Okay, So I have declared Wint and Toast. Like I am importing this Python package Wint and Toast. So import here basically means that I am going to use this particular package in my Python code. So whatever um, whatever is there in the package, that all will be loaded here. Okay, so this is the list now, and now what we will write is we will first of all, let's just ignore this also. Let's just try to see how notifications get toasted. Okay, so notifications get toasted basically means notifications start popping up. Okay, so for that, what you need to write is create any variable. Okay, in this case I am using notif as the variable. Write toast, 1 second, we need to change something here. From Wint and Toast import toast notifier. Okay, and then we copy it here and write this. So this is like a compulsory line. This particular line is sort of compulsory, where you can change the name for this variable, but you need to basically assign this particular value to some variable. That is kind of necessary. Okay, and then what you have to do is you have to write notif dot show underscore toast. Okay, and open and close the parenthesis. Now the first value is kind of the main heading. Okay, heading 1. The second one is kind of like normal text. Okay, so let's just try to run this and see what happens. So you can see that we are getting this heading 1 normal text just below that. Okay, so this is like the basic structure for that. Okay, and if we want uh, the notifications to pop after few seconds, like for example, we write duration equal to 5. Okay, so what this means, that when we run the program and when the program comes to this line, the notification will come up after 5 seconds. Okay, so by default also there is some time, but if we want to change the time, we can explicitly mention it. Okay. All right, so this is like this must be clear now. Now for example, we have this the whole 2D list, right? So first of all, let's go step by step. Okay, so let's assume that this is your 2D list. uh, Quote. Okay, and author. So I kind of created a sample 2D list for you guys so that the things become more easy to understand. I created this uh, 2D list, sample 2D list, to make you understand how we are going to proceed with our code. So when I write q and 0 here, okay, so it will represent this whole list. Okay, but we want particular this thing from to be our main heading. So again we write this thing. Okay, and similarly we can write 0 and 1 here. Okay, and now if we run this, let's see, we should get quote and then below it we should get author, and that's exactly what we get. So we are doing fine so far. Yeah, so now let's copy paste the main large one. Okay, I will have to copy paste it from here. All right, So this was like our main 2D list. All right. Mm, right. So this was our 2D list. Now let's comment this. Okay, so hashtag is used for commenting. I earlier forgot to tell. Hashtag is used for commenting. So commenting basically means that this, it's basically for writing short notes, okay, in your code. So if you comment a particular line, it will not be considered as part of code. So if I comment this here, so it will not be considered as part of code at this particular moment. So I am commenting it here. Now I want to go step by step. So I want to iterate over this 2D list. Okay, so the 2D list name is quotes underscore authors. So I will write for quote in quote authors. Okay, and let's print quote. So what we have written so far, what should we get? We should get this in the first iteration. Like when the for loop runs for the first time, we should get this, then this, then this, and then this. Because if you remember earlier, we said that when the when for loop works on a list, so it basically this quote will be equal to the first index, or like the 0th index of the 2D like the main list. Okay, so in this case the 0th index is a list itself. So this will be representing this whole 1D list. Okay, so if I run this, you can see it clearly and be more clarified with the process. So each time quote is equal to that particular 1D list. Okay, so obviously if I write quote 0 here and quote uh, 1 here, so what do we get? uh, we will be getting, like, quote represents a particular 1D list, like this, for example, in the very first time the for loop works. So if we take the 0th item of quote, okay, so it will basically represent this portion, and then it will represent, the first index will represent Yogi Berra, which is the author name. So that's exactly what we want now. So let's run this again. So you can see that the quote is printed, and then by one space the author name is also printed. So the whole idea behind what I am trying to do is that I want to separate out the quote, main quote, and its author. Okay, so basically if we write print quote 1 here, so maybe then it will be more clear that this particular line represents the quote and this particular line represents the author. Okay, so if I run this again, then perhaps it will be more clear. So you can see this was the quote, this was the author name, again this was the quote, this was the author name, and so on. Okay. Now we are ready. Okay, so in this moment, what should be our repetitive task? Our repetitive task should be that the quotes keep popping up, right? To create the quotes, to create to create the notification of quotes is the repetitive task, basically. All right, so what we are going to do is, let's remove this and copy paste it here. Okay, and let's remove this, and this basically represented our main quote, this represents our author name. Okay, so we want our main heading to be the quote, and below it in the normal text portion we basically want the author name to be printed. Okay, and for now let's keep the duration equal to 5 seconds only. Now when we run this whole program, what should be our expected output? That notifications keep on popping up, and on the top the main heading would be of the quote, and below it, it should be the author name, just like I showed you guys earlier. So if I run this now, whew, you can see the quotes have started popping up. Okay, and after each 5 seconds a new quote will come up. Okay, and that's how we have finally created our quotes notifier. All right. um so I hope this whole thing is clear to you all now, and this will keep on running till all the quotes in our to-do list do not end. Okay, once the last quote, that is by Donald Trump, comes up, then our program will stop. And that is basically all for this webinar, guys.
Great. Thank you so much, Sahaj. It was indeed a really interesting session. I learned a lot from it. We have some questions. So, if you would like to answer that, so we have some questions. So, first one is, can we use symbols in variable, like the ones I mentioned, or any other special character?
All right. So, Archit, we cannot use special characters in the variable names. Like, not like you can only use underscore. Okay, you can only use underscore, but not any other special character.
Okay. So we have, can we give specific requirements for input, like only 1 to 9 for mobile number, like that?
Um, Not exactly, but you can mention it in the message. Like I showed you, that you can mention the message, like what value is basically expected. So you can provide that in form of that, but not exactly. You cannot basically keep the restriction. But yeah, you can also do one thing. There is a thing called error handling in Python. Okay, so when you take the input from the user, so you can notice if the input is not between the range 1 comma 9. Okay, so you can perhaps give them an error. Okay, so and in that error it will basically state that the mobile number is not between 1 comma 9. So they will understand that, but not exactly. Like you can just provide the message, or you can raise your own error. That's the only thing you can do.
Okay, great. And we have a project-based question. So if we have something for Mac users as well.
Yeah, for Mac, actually, you do have something. Is my screen still visible?
Yeah, I'll just add it to the chat.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, Yogesh, for Mac, I just forgot what it was to be precise, but what you can do is you can write notifications in Mac Python. Yeah. So earlier also in one of the webinars, one of the person asked me for that, and you can open the first Stack Overflow link, and you can take help of that this particular thing. There are many solutions mentioned, so accordingly as per your own task or work, you can use this as well. So I hope this solves the problem.
Yeah, I guess it does. So I guess we are done with the questions as well. So thank you so much, Sahaj. It was a really interesting session with you, and we hope to connect with you real time soon for much.
Thanks a lot, Kushi.
Yeah. So thank you so much, people, for coming and joining in. It was a great session with you all as well. And if you really like the video, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel as well for more live updates. And you can connect with Zubi over the Telegram and Discord channels as listed in the description as well. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll be back soon with another interesting event. Thank you.